Disarmament and Non-Proliferation. Senator Ludlam.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, gentlemen. If you want to maybe just quickly introduce yourselves. I was expecting to see Dr. Floyd here. Is he on urgent business somewhere?
Yes, my name is Peter Shannon. I'm the Acting First Assistant Secretary, International Security Division.
My name is Dr. John Kalish. I'm the Acting Director General of the Australian Safeguards and Non-Proliferation Office.
Great. Nice to have you with us. Can you just let us know as to the whereabouts of Dr. Floyd?
No, he's overseas at a conference. I'm not sure which one, but he's on official business. So Dr. Kalish is the acting DG at ASNO. All
right, no trouble. Can you just tell us officially, from the point of view of ASNO, what the status is of the bilateral safeguards agreement with India?
The recent meeting between the Prime Minister.
That triggers a long sort of foreshadowed process.
Negotiation has not commenced on that treaty.
Well, it's been announced to the entire planet that there will be an agreement. So ASNO has not yet begun work on any such agreement?
I believe what was announced was that negotiations would commence on an agreement.
Yeah, okay. So can you just sketch for us the process by which those negotiations will be conducted?
Perhaps I can help you here, Senator. Ministers haven't yet considered a mandate for the negotiations, that's to say the writing instructions. The agreement has been reached to start the negotiations, which was last night, our time. So advice is being assembled for ministers to consider the mandate, and then I expect we would talk to India about a start date. I would think sometime early in 2013, and then the process would start. We're realistic about this. We think it would take some time. So perhaps maybe a year or two. We don't have a feel for it yet.
Okay, so it sounds like a big announcement's been made, but actually there's nothing at all in terms of how these negotiations will progress, or from an Australian side, who the lead organisation will be, who our negotiators will be.
No, those things haven't yet been finally decided. A lot of discussion, of course, among interested agencies and people within the department. But one important personality who'll have a view on this will be our incoming secretary, our current High Commissioner in India, Peter Varghese. So I expect we would wait until he arrives to at least conclude a departmental position.
Okay. Doesn't sound like there's going to be a great deal more movement, though. You said, I think, early 2013. This would actually get up on
I think so, yes. Sometime then, sometime in the first quarter, I guess, we would have our first meeting.
Okay. All right, thanks. Has the agency done any assessment at all in relation to recent demonstrations and fatalities at the Kudankulam reactor plant in Tamil Nadu? Have you got any visibility of that at all?
Well, yes, I have some briefing about that. There have been several demonstrations, I think. One at the Kudankulam power plant in Tamil Nadu. Is that the one you're referring to?
Yeah, it is.
Yes.
There have been 2 fatalities there.
And there was a protesting fisherman who was shot dead by police after a police checkpoint was set on fire. And then on 22 September, 3,000 fishermen and activists in 500 small boats. There was a protest outside the port, fueled by concerns about safety and livelihoods if a Fukushima disaster was to occur.
Yeah.
My briefing also says that in August 2012, the Minister of State for Personnel, Public Grievances and Pensions made a statement along the lines that the power plant meets IAEA safety requirements. The reactors are Generation 3+ reactors, have advanced safety features. The safety of the reactors has been reviewed by the Russian regulatory authorities and the AERB. Post-Fukushima safety review of the plant has been carried out by the Task Force of the Nuclear Power Corporation of India and the Expert Committee of the AERB, which have found that the plant is safe from extreme natural events. The facts have been explained to the representatives of the processing people by the expert group consulted by the central government.
Sorry, not to misquote you, did you say that the IAEA has declared these plants compliant?
No, I didn't refer to the IAEA. I said, well, it said, no, this is an Indian assertion that the plant meets IAEA safety requirements.
They're saying that you're aware of the recent report by their Auditor General that absolutely slams the industry.
Yes.
Yep. So just ASNO's in charge of making sure that material's not diverted illegally to weapons programs and so on. You don't have a formal safety role, so I appreciate that you've at least brought that information to the table. Will the safety of those plants in the Indian regulatory system, leaving the safeguards issue aside for a moment, play any part in the decision-making around a safeguards or a sales agreement?
Yes.
It will?
Yes. We would certainly take this into account. We would expect India to follow international best practice in regard to safety.
Okay.
And we would expect our negotiators to address nuclear safety along with other matters.
Does that mean that if you're not convinced, as the Indian Auditor General certainly isn't, that those plants are being run to anything like world's best practice, that a sales agreement wouldn't occur? Like you obviously you're able to give it regard, and I'm pleased to hear that because I wasn't certain that was true. What happens if you're not happy with safety standards?
These are all issues which we work through during the negotiating process, Senator.
Yeah, I understand.
All of these
that.
issues will be worked through.
Yeah, thanks for your help.
Yeah, there are some positives in the report. The fact that the auditor's report is out there now is a good thing, I think.
Oh, certainly.
The IAEA is sending a team this month to look at the safety aspects of the new plant builds.
Yeah.
And then it's likely that a peer review team led by the agency would come out, I believe, in the near future to look at the regulatory framework. So all this is being exposed now, I think.
There'll be no shortage of information. That is good. But what I'm trying to get clear on is that given that you are able, presumably, if you weren't able to conclude to your satisfaction, it's coming to the security issues, that your Australian obligated uranium wasn't going to be transferred into weapons programs, you wouldn't conclude an agreement. I mean, that's the purpose of this assessment, right?
Well, we can't speculate. I mean, we have clear objectives and we have domestic policy objectives, domestic policy requirements and whatnot, but I can't speculate what the how the movement of the negotiations might proceed.
But please explain our objectives then. Are your objectives to conclude a sales agreement, or are your objectives to make absolutely certain that Australian uranium is not diverted into weapons programs?
No, well, they're both. I mean, one's related to the other. If we have a sales agreement, part and parcel of that will be that there's no diversion.
Well, what if we'll just come back to the safety side. What if you're not convinced, ultimately, as the Indian AG is not, that these plants are safe?
Well, ministers will make a decision based on what our nuclear policy objectives are, what
Senator,
has been the outcome of the agreement. I think we're also
getting ahead of ourselves here, Senator. It's hypothetical. We haven't even begun the negotiations yet. We'll have a negotiating mandate. The government will approve. We will start the negotiations. These safeguard agreements are complex. They are very important. We take them seriously. We'll work all of this through during the course of the negotiations. But as I said, I think we've got a few hypotheticals on hypotheticals here.
Not really. Has there been any consideration given, or have you folk got a file open on a response to Pakistan's flagged intention to seek to purchase Australian uranium should sales of India be advanced? There's one that is obviously not hypothetical now on the basis of the PM's announcement overnight. Have we had any approaches made by the government of Pakistan?
I'm not aware of that. I think Pakistan understands it would have to secure an exemption of the nuclear suppliers group.
Well, that wasn't a problem in the case of India, but you're quite correct. Could you maybe take on notice for us, I'm not expecting you to have this at the table with you now, whether any form of negotiations or preliminary discussions have commenced with the government of Pakistan?
I'm pretty confident it's not the case.
Senator,
the answer is no.
The possibility of uranium sales to Pakistan is not under consideration.
It is not. Okay, good. Every now and again you get something black and white out of these sessions. It's much appreciated.
Thank you, Senator.
You're welcome. What agency assessments have been made of India's nuclear weapons program and aspirations?
Which agency are you talking about?
I beg your pardon, I'm back to ASNO.
So could you please repeat your question?
I'm asking for your evaluation of India's nuclear weapons program and aspirations.
We know that India has nuclear weapons, and we know that they plan to maintain them, and that they will not sign the NPT and renounce their nuclear weapon arsenal.
Okay. So if I've got senior Indian officials, in fact the former head of one of their key regulators, saying that it's important to lock in overseas sources of uranium so that they can quarantine domestic supplies for nuclear weapons, for an arms race with Pakistan. Can you explain to me, because I really can't understand, how you're going to be able to prevent that kind of behaviour in any form of safeguards agreement?
Well, we know that they have adequate indigenous resources of uranium to fulfill the needs of their weapons program, and they have already signed contracts with other overseas suppliers for uranium.
Okay, so we're more than happy for Australian uranium as long as we can be sure that our material is not being diverted off into weapons for that to free up domestic supplies for a nuclear arms race on the subcontinent.
No, we take strong objection to the possession of nuclear weapons by India.
Oh, okay. In what forums have we expressed that objection?
Oh, regularly at the International Atomic Energy Agency.
Did the Prime Minister
Board of
raise that on
Government
a
meetings.
recent visit, do you think? Sorry, that was a question.
A question? Well, I don't know, Senator.
So strong objections, but maybe anybody could help me out there. Did the Prime Minister raise the issue of nuclear weapons abolition on the subcontinent with the Indian government?
I'm not privy to the Prime Minister's discussions. Our views on nuclear weapons generally are very well known.
Right. Can you just talk us through, because we've not done one of these before, obviously, the bilateral agreements that we've signed up to so far, this is my final question, are all lodged with the IAEA up until now. Can you just tell us the relationship that you expect the IAEA to have as this agreement progresses between Australia and India? Will it have any formal role at all?
One of the conditions of the agreement is that IAEA safeguards are applied to Australian obligate nuclear material.
Okay. In the same way as that we just take the Indian government's word for it, as we do with safety, or will the IAEA actually be at the table and be a participant?
The IAEA has a bilateral agreement with India, and the agreement with India is called Infrastructure 754, and that allows the IAEA inspectors to inspect Indian facilities, nuclear facilities.
Only those facilities that the Indians have conceded they will allow inspections in. So
yes.
they've kept most of their weapons program beyond the remit of the IAEA. How confident are you that we will actually have any idea at all what happens to Australian uranium under those rather awkward circumstances?
I don't believe these circumstances are awkward if our material is only used in those facilities that are safeguarded by the IAEA.
I could have chosen other words. All right, thanks for your help, gentlemen. Thanks, Chair.